This is the Ecommerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast. I'm Julie Spear, Head of Retail Marketplace Services at Acadia. Today, I'm joined by Molly Bleckman, Retail Account Manager, and Juan Munoz, Retail Media Manager. Molly and Juan work closely together on many of our brands, and today they join us to discuss some of the trends they're seeing when it comes to the importance of profitability in 2024, as well as how they bake margin preservation into everyday tactics and strategies of brand management on Amazon and other channels. So with that, welcome, Molly and Juan. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Julie. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right. Well, let's dig in. Let's talk about kind of the trends that you're seeing. Measuring and optimizing for profitability isn't a new concept, but it is something that we're hearing more and more of from brands in the past year, understandably with the way the economy has been moving. What do you attribute to this change as you're seeing it relative to retail marketplaces? And are there consistent themes that you hear from clients that are motivating their focus on profit?
Juan, you want to take this one first?
Sure, I can take it. Great. I will say the main thing is Amazon fees are increasing. And it's true that this is really affecting those smaller fish in the pond. It's true that vendors don't really seem to be having this issue so much. But like I said, those small sellers, they really are suffering. And this makes a lot of sense, not only because of the fees, but also because Amazon is a really competitive marketplace. For that same reason, we've heard many times from clients different action items that they are trying to do or basically get our take on it. Some of them could be putting more emphasis on those cash cow ASINs that we currently have so we can focus more on those, which brings us to the budget allocation that we have from advertising towards those specific ones and finding that ratio within the total sales. So absolutely something we're seeing, and clients are taking a lot of action in order to stay away from it.
And Molly, how are you seeing it on your end?
To echo Juan's point, of course, Amazon fees are constantly changing. And at the end of the day, just the consumer buying behavior has changed, especially with Amazon dominating. Everyone's mentality shifting to, I want to order this today and have it at my doorstep by the end of today in order to be a brand that consumers recognize. You got to be in these marketplaces. And that also means if you're newer to that space, it's more saturated and competitive, and you need to pay to play. And in the beginning, you might not be profitable. And so I think just now more than ever, it's taking a lot more time and money before you get to that step where you see that net profit. And again, with the changing fees, it is quite intimidating, and brands and clients of ours especially are putting much more emphasis on wanting to see that positive ROI that they're spending.
On that, is it a trend that you're seeing across all your clients, Molly, or are there still some that are focused on growing top line revenue or acquiring new customers? How do you see this varying by brand and maybe size maturity of the business as a whole?
You nailed it on the head. I think it really depends on the brand and their maturity level. Are they a brand that has been marketing across multiple platforms and this marketplace is just an extension of what they've already done and established? Or are they launching for the first time in a younger brand that is in a fish of thousands of other similar brands in that space? I've found that it's really the smaller scale or brands that aren't those household names that you automatically know about that are the ones concerned about profitability, or they haven't been on Amazon for 5+ years and established tens and thousands of reviews. Those are the ones that I've really found are focused the most on profitability. And maybe they went into it thinking, oh, well, let me just add our products to Amazon and it will happen overnight that we start to see the profit. And then they get concerned on that, which is fair, but it is more of a long-term play and it takes time to see that profitability.
To Molly's point, I do have to agree fully, but I will also add the point of the category itself. Because it's true that something that we have been seeing that advertisers, or let's say brands in general, they are struggling with is if they're small, if they have tight margins, we know that, but also how competitive the category really is. It is not the same selling, for example, in the supplements industry that selling, let's say, hairbrushes. Like there's going to be different CPCs, different search volumes. So that is really going to affect everything. What I'm trying to say with this is that this strategy of focusing on the profit as of now, every month, it can also be a little bit in detriment of your overall growth because you are getting the profits every month, but you're leaving a lot of buyers, potential buyers in the future that is going to make your overall growth better by the end of the year. I promise this will make much more sense after some of the questions here in the podcast, but this is basically the point that I want to do. We want to ensure that the category is competitive, but enough for you to get that growth. If not, if you're a smaller brand, right now Amazon is making it really tough on you.
Yeah, I can see category playing a big role in the profitability focus or comfort with kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. And I'm curious to dig into this from a media buying perspective in a moment. So I'll be getting back to you, Juan. But starting first from the picture of the whole business, Molly, can you walk me through how you go about understanding a brand's profit targets, what sort of KPIs you're looking at on a regular basis, how you track against those? Because Amazon doesn't make profitability reporting. So I'm interested in how you approach this for brands that you manage.
Yeah, from the start as an account manager, always understanding our clients' specific KPIs, what's important to them. Some are more focused on brand recognition and new to brand customers and just brand awareness. The ones that are focused on profitability, of course, one of the first steps is sharing their COGS with us. And we have our own tools that we use at Acadia that really help to look at this, because you're correct in saying Amazon doesn't make it easy within Seller Central or in Vendor Central to see a full scope of fees and profit margin at the end of the day there. We use a tool called Merchant Spring. So just tracking that holistically from a channel level, and then really diving in at a product level too. There's a lot of different metrics that we're looking at. I could go on and on about whether it's tacos or ROAS, but just looking across the entire catalog when it comes to the different expenses, fees, storage costs, inventory management. There's really a whole bag that goes into profitability, and it's hard to pinpoint just one or three KPIs even that I'm looking at.
Well, could you share a few of the KPIs that you're looking at? We don't need to go down to the nitty gritty, but what are some of the overarching KPIs that you are looking at, especially at the item level as you're assessing profitability?
Yeah, Amazon rolled out a lot of changes just in 2024 even, and they do have tools like their revenue calculator that shows the breakdown of all the different fees. So looking at, does this product have a high storage fee? Is it oversized? Do we have excess inventory? Now there's low inventory fees. So looking at all of the different fees that are accrued at the product level, as well as just the overall margin for that product when you factor in the COGS versus the total sales of that product. Is it worth it to keep replenishing that item if it's not even profitable when you factor in fees versus the sales volume that you're doing on that product? So that's something within like a P&L channel level, looking monthly, as well as down to the item level, looking at all of those expenses and gains as well.
Thank you, Molly. On the ad side of the business, Juan, how do you approach this same point? What sort of advertising metrics ensure you're aligning your approach with the overall profit goals of the brand?
Of course. So for this one, I'm going to put my PPC hat on for a second. So please bear with me because I even have, let's say, a formula for this one. Let's put it this way. The objective of advertising at the end of the day is to grow organic sales. We want to grow those because they're free. Advertising placements will always have a payment behind, which is going to be the CPC. So what this means is, if we're focusing on profitability, what we want to do is increase the organic rank as much as possible, because the more organic rank growth, the better TROAS, and the better TROAS, the more advertising fun time I can have later on by innovating, pushing different campaigns, be able to push different products to see how they grow, and basically be more aggressive with my overall advertising tactics. That's my formula. I hope you like it. But now let me actually give you the explanation behind it. The keys for growth within these organic ads are the following. We want to increase the presence for high search volume keywords. Of course, this is easier said than done, as we need to really be able to find those little keywords, which I like to call the shadow keywords. Those are going to be able to give you sales, but at a lower cost than those ones that they're going to increase their ranking the most. I'm talking about the difference between long tail keywords and short tail keywords. Those are going to be your key for growth. At the same time, I like to say that for organic growth, clicks are your friends, but the CPC is your best friend forever. And the reason why I say this is, well, clicks is going to allow you to get that machine, the algorithm from Amazon going on and really be able to increase in rank. But at the same time, you need to take in consideration how much is it really costing you? If you, for example, target the keyword shampoo, well, I can guarantee you're not going to be on the top of the page for really long because the CPCs are so high. Instead, if you target these shadow keywords that I explained in the past, you're going to be able to stay longer for a cheaper price, and you're going to target those niche markets that the competitors are not doing, leading you to a great strategy overall. In short, the KPIs that you should look out for when you're trying to reach this growth and this profitability should be number one, organic rank, followed by the sponsorship activity share. So you know your share for all of those keywords and the category. And lastly, the CPCs. Like I said, clicks are your friends, but CPCs are your best friend forever.
I love it. I love a good formula, and you can't take your eye off CPC ever. So good words of advice there. Now digging into the particular targets for profitability by brand, you have the measurement framework in place. Molly, I'm curious how you translate that into strategy. Once you have an idea of kind of what's taking place at the item level, what are the levers that you find yourself reaching for when clients are looking to improve their profitability specifically?
Yeah, again, loaded question there because it is really looking holistically at a lot of different areas within just the overall account. So from inventory management, starting at the top, looking at the P&L that I am tracking on a monthly basis. If there are any red flags that I can immediately find, like storage fees are really high, then maybe inventory has been a challenge and we need to cut back on how much we're sending to FC each month. Or maybe it is just the sales are down. And then also just looking at the SKU level, if the clicks are high and the conversion rate is low, then we really need to take a step back and look at what we can do from an organic perspective. Are our listings really set up to convert and increase sales? Is there a reason why we're not growing month over month and gaining brand recognition and new to brand customers? At Acadia, we did come up with a tool that's really a brand audit, and it gives you an overall score, and it looks at different organic factors from the images on your PDPs. Do you have A+ content? Are your titles optimized? Bullet points? Those are some of the organic ways that I'm making sure we're set up in the best position, that on the PPC side, if we're driving traffic, it should be converting. We should be seeing a positive ROAS. That's really something on the strategy side. I want to make sure that we're not just throwing money at advertising and not seeing the return there without having that position set up organically. It makes sense when you're not going to be profitable there. And then just looking at the competitive landscape too, going back to Juan's point earlier about the category you're in. If it is a really saturated competitive marketplace and you're not looking at what other brands that are doing well in the category are doing differently, do they have really strong infographics? Is that something that this other brand is lacking? Are there different pack sizes? I think speaking to the getting granular at the item level, that's where it might not be profitable to sell one single bag of a product versus having a 3-pack or a 6-pack option. So you really have to put a lot of hats on and look just across a lot of different levers to understand what is going to move the needle, especially depending on the product and category. Subscribe and save is something that I found is a really strong strategy if it makes sense for your brand. Typically, it's a 2 to 3x the revenue of subscribers versus just a new to brand customer. And it does help with the revenue flow month over month if you can grow the subscribe and save program. So that's another piece that I'm really honing in on if it makes sense for the brand.
Yeah, excellent. So the starting point is making sure your operational metrics and operational processes are sound and you're not leaving any money on the table there. Moving into an organic strategy that ensures that you're converting, have strong SEO and that strong brand presentation and value proposition at the item level, and then a promo strategy with subscribe and save. It's the fundamentals of a healthy account management on Amazon for sure. And then Juan, I think you hinted at what you might do in your last answer when you talked about shadow keywords. From an ads perspective, how do you go about, what levers are you pulling for brands that are really hyper-focused on profitability?
When it comes down to profitability within advertising, we need to be as granular as we can. And this can be achieved in different ways, which I'm about to explain. But it's true that I'm a huge advocate for the single ASIN strategy. This is something that, of course, I'm going to touch in a second. But let me start with what would be the first thing that I want to do? If I had a brand and I wanted to focus on profitability from tomorrow, these are the first things that I would do from the advertising perspective. The very first thing I would do is I need to understand what are my cash cow ASINs. I'm going to be doing a table and I'm going to be seeing, okay, these ASINs are bringing me the most number of total sales. And then to the right, I'm going to add how much money is going to each one of those ASINs. That it's going within the advertising side. That is going to let me know if I'm underspending or overspending in certain ASINs. Maybe I'm spending a lot of my budget in an ASIN that barely brings me any sales. So once I actually understood which ASINs are the ones that they're my cash cows, and now I need to go and align how much I'm spending into those. That's when the single ASIN strategy comes in. Like I said in the beginning, I want to be as granular as possible. What this means is I'm going to be creating a campaign for each stage of the funnel for each ASIN. It doesn't get more granular than this because I'm going to be having all of the eyes in all of the stages of the funnel. This is why it's so great. At the same time, once I do that, I need to be able to see which keywords I'm using and conquest those shadow keywords that I was talking about. You're going to go much more further with a keyword for a niche market with a low CPC than if you try to conquest the number one keyword. We're focusing on profitability here. Profitability comes from growing organic ranking. If you do this for some months, you're going to grow organically for a better cost, and it's going to put you at the very top. At the same time, I cannot finish this part of my answer without saying that your connection with your catalog specialist is more than a need. It's vital. You need to have lunch and dinner with them. You need to be able to have those conversations and know what's going on because you need to feed each other the keywords that they're winning and what are you seeing in the market. You need to feed them for the backend keywords, for the titles, for the descriptions. And they also need to tell you what promotions they got, what are they seeing, are there any social media situations going on, because that is all going to help grow the overall brand, grow the category at the minimum cost.
I love that point. Having lunch and dinner. So you and Molly need to be connected, making sure that she's keeping you up to date with the operational points. You're feeding her the information that you see on the keyword level to inform organic. And then she's keeping you up to date on promotion strategy, whether it's on platform or off platform. The integration of those parts of the Amazon account are vital. And this goes to something that we talk about all the time around we need to remove silos in general around retail media marketplaces. I like how you categorize it as needing to have lunch and dinner together. It's a very nice way of putting the breaking down of the silos. All right, last question. Are there scenarios when you see that a brand can become too focused on profitability in a way that it might inhibit their growth or cause them to miss out on opportunities? I'm thinking branded keywords. It comes to mind immediately. I don't want to do a spoiler there for you, Juan, but if that's the case, how do you navigate it?
My answer is super yes, absolute yes. And the main reason behind it is, well, if you have a limited TROAS, It's a conservative defensive strategy. I am not knocking it off. I'm actually a fan. Of course, you need to meet your numbers at the end of the month, and this works. But here's the thing. I believe that your lack of planning until the end of the year or for the next 3 years is killing your overall growth on Amazon. The reason why I'm saying this is, well, if you're limited with the amount of money that you're investing in advertising, and when I say investing in advertising means reducing your amount of organic growth if you do it right, that is leaving a lot of possible buyers every month. On the other hand, if you take the advertiser and you are like, okay, these first months, I'm not going to be profitable. But at the end of the year, if I follow this plan, I'm going to make it. You're going to be much better off. Because picture this. The first month, you're going to be achieving that higher ranking with your products. That's going to put you for free on the very top. And then you have the rest of the months to profit from them. What I'm saying here is, if you want to go with this defensive strategy, it's great. But I also think that if you plan out the whole year and you stick to the numbers that you should see on a monthly growth basis, you will be much better off at the end, because the key here is to use advertising, use that spend to grow your ranking, to profit at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, however you want to say it. And Julie, I need to comment on it. Yes, the usage of branded keywords could be too much sometimes. So please use advertising for your own growth and defending it. Sometimes it can get in the way.
I agree. It always baffles me when I see an over-reliance on the branded. It's just leaving potential customers on the table. And who wants that? Ultimately, profitability is key. Yes. Pay attention to those CPCs like you talked about, Juan, but ultimately we want to be gaining new customers. That's how we grow. We can't lose sight of that. I appreciate both of your time and your insights. Profitability can never be just a short-term buzzword. It has to be at the forefront of our minds when we're looking at strategy and planning out campaigns and tactics on any retail marketplace. So what you have mapped out today are some good metrics to keep in mind, some levers that brands can pull, and I really appreciate your time today. Thank you both.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.